Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is, it's horrific. It concerns a child death. So obviously if these cases are for you, I'm just going to warn you now and let you know that that is what we're going to be getting into. It is the case of April Tinsley. And it would actually go unsolved for 30 years until technology caught up. And then we finally caught her murderer, which obviously we'll get into. April Marie Tinsley was born on the 18th of March in 1980 to parents Michael and Janet in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in the US. She was described as a very sweet girl. She was very well liked in school. Just a typical little girl, you know, she would get in trouble often. She's just trying to find her place in the world. Her mum said that she was such a fun and loving person and she was just the perfect daughter. She was the daughter that Janet always wanted. April was kind of shy initially, but when she would go out and play out with a friend, she would be off and out for hours. She was also a member of the Faith United Methodist Church and she would go to choir there. She grew up in Fort Wayne and she had her whole life ahead of her. Sadly, that all changed on the 1st of April in 1988. It was Good Friday. And April, who was at that time, she was in first grade and was only 8 years old. So she'd gotten out of school early that day. She went home, she had lunch with her mother. And then she was going to go out and play with her friends. One of her friends was called Nicole, and she went round to Nicole's house for a little while and then they went off playing. I believe there were 2 friends in total that April was playing with, and they were playing between each other's houses and things like that. So Janet, before she left, Janet actually told her that she could go, but she would have to ring her as soon as she got there. And April did. Once she got to Nicole's house, she rang Janet and told her that she was there safe. And then she told April that she had to be home between 3:30 and 4 p.m. And April said, yeah, okay, that's fine. But then 4 p.m. came around and April still hadn't come home. So she gave her a little bit of time, you know, benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe she's just a little bit late. But then as time got on, she decided to call Nicole's mum and find out what was going on, where she was. And Nicole's mum told her that the girls had actually gone out to play at about 3 p.m. And I believe they were in a playground or something like that. So what had actually happened is the girls were out playing and it had started to rain. And so April, who had actually left her umbrella at Nicole's house, decided that she was going to go and get that umbrella because obviously she didn't want to get wet. So she left the girls playing and she was going to go and walk back to Nicole's house alone. And the girls actually said that she dipped in between sort of 2 houses. And then that was that. She never came out again. She never made it to Nicole's house. She never went to get that umbrella. She just vanished. Of course, once they found out that, you know, April was missing, Janet and Michael, they went and told people. And the community were out looking for her. They were looking everywhere that they could, thinking, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe she just wandered off. Maybe she doesn't know where she is and she's gotten a bit turned around or something. Anything, really, than the alternative. I mean, no one's going to want to think that about their children, are they? So you're out there, you're looking. And when they couldn't find her, they called Fort Wayne police at about 6 p.m. When they turned up, she gave them a photo of April, described what April was wearing that day, which was a blue turtleneck sweater, pink and red jacket, light blue pants with 3 hearts on the left leg, and pink shoes. And the search for April began very quickly. And I mean, they do jump on these things when children are involved, of course. Time is of the essence in these cases. So they were on it, they were out, they were looking for her. They searched a 20-block radius from where she was last kind of seen, but they couldn't find her, and that is when the police began to assume that she had potentially been abducted. The search was big. Like, they had 250 officers all out looking, joining 50 community members and family members who were already out looking, and they were just searching the entire area, but they didn't find anything for days. 3 days passed, which were now on the 4th of April in 1988, and like I said, there was just so many people out looking. But then the search party didn't actually find the body. It was a jogger. About 3:30 p.m, a jogger was, I don't know, out on a run, I guess, and he came across a body in a ditch in Spencerville, which was just literally outside of town. The body was about 40 foot from the road, and devastatingly, it did turn out to be that of April Tinsley. So police straight away, from the physical evidence that they were looking at, believed that April had been strangled. And I mean, I'm not going to go into the details of it because it's just, we don't need that. But She was found naked from the waist down, wearing only one shoe. And when obviously you're thinking that potentially she is being sexually assaulted from that, and then probably that she was strangled as after. It was thought that she'd been deceased for a day or so, so maybe she had been kept alive for 2 days, strangled, and then that is when she would have been dumped there. And it's thought that she had been sort of in that ditch for around 4 hours. Now, they were able to actually retrieve the killer's semen from the scene, from the body. I don't really know particularly where from, but they were able to build a DNA profile of the murderer from that, but they just still couldn't find him. Obviously, this is the 80s, so technology wasn't very great back then. Investigators really did believe that the suspect involved actually lived in Fort Wayne and wanted her body to be found. So they searched the surrounding area, and this is when they found 800 yards away on the other side of the road April's other shoe. So it thought that potentially, you know, after dumping the body, that maybe this person realised that the shoe was still in the car and then just chucked it out of the side of the road, kind of thing, on the side of the road. They also found a sex toy in a shopping bag close to her body. On the 5th of April, a motorist came forward to say that they had seen a blue pickup truck near the scene. They saw some male in his about 30s, I believe, trying to get a kid into a car. The male seemed perfectly calm. And when asked why they didn't report this, they said that they just figured that it was a kid having a tantrum and the dad trying to get him in the car because he was so calm. I mean, that's really sad, because obviously April ended up being murdered. And who knows if the police may have had this information. Not that this person would have known at the time, obviously, but if they maybe had that information, they would have been looking for a blue truck, and maybe, I don't know, maybe things would have been different. But that's just complete speculation. On the 8th of April, 150 people went to April's funeral memorial service, and this is when a woman called the police to say that she had seen a blonde little girl walking on the side of the road, and she had hats on her pants and was in the area that April was last seen. She said that April tried to cross the street and then a blue pickup truck came and pulled in beside her. She also said that April didn't seem like terrified or anything like that, as if she maybe knew this person. And then when the truck left, April was also gone. The witness described the male to the police, and there was a sketch done from that. Stated that this male was white with sandy blonde wavy hair, about 150 pounds. After the sketch was released, the police started receiving tips from the public, and many of these leads given to the police named a man called Moose, but it actually turned out that when they tested his DNA, that wasn't a match. 2 years would pass by, making this now the 21st of May in 1990, and you know, her case had been cold for like 2 years. They were still no closer to finding the killer, and then they found some new information. A man called the police to say that he had found this writing on his barn wall, and it said, "I kill 8-year-old April Marie Tinsley, and I will kill again." Now, this barn was actually 10 miles away from where April was found. The police released this information in the hopes that it would spark something, that they would get closer to finding who did this. Obviously, they're taunting the police, but again, nothing came of that, and the case went cold once more. Then 15 years later, on the 25th of March in 2004, a young girl who was around about the same age as April when she was murdered found a note, like, in this Ziploc bag attached to her bike, and the note said, "Hi honey, I've been watching you. I am the same person that kidnapped and raped and killed April Tinsley. You are my next victim." And it was written on this yellow paper. Inside the plastic bag, they also found a condom which had been used, and they saw similarities between the writings on the barn and the note. There was a lot of spelling mistakes, a lot of sort of grammar issues, things like that, and they were very similar. So whoever wrote that on the barn most likely did this note too. 2 other notes were found with the same message, and not long after, a 4th turned up, which also apparently had a nude photo in it of this person. And that's 4 girls now that received the messages from Fort Wayne that had the condoms in, along with the threats. And of course, they got DNA off of those, and it did match the crime scene of April's murder. But again, they ran that through the databases and it didn't come up with a match. I mean, obviously the problem that they have with that is that if this person, whoever did it, has never done anything else criminal, their DNA won't be on the system, and therefore no matches will come up. Police released all of the notes in the hopes that spelling mistakes, how they had written the note, things like that, just that it would spark a memory in someone, that they would realise that this is actually the person that they know, or something like that. And then a lead did actually come through. One tip came in, and it seemed like it was a very promising tip. It was a man who was accusing his father of being April's killer. He lived close, he had a dark history with children. He also had a Polaroid camera, which he took photos of pretty disturbing things, according to this man. The caller also said that he would write things, like when he wrote things down, he would say like, "Hi honey," just like the note, and he would often put her heart on the end. Not only that, he owned a blue pickup truck, of which a few days after April's murder, he had painted that blue pickup truck a different colour. Of course, that sent up alarm bells like it would do. Police went around to speak to him, and he was like, "No, I didn't do it, I was in work that day." And that was suspicious as well, because who knows what they were doing 15 years ago. Like, that's a very long time. I don't even know what I was doing yesterday, never mind 15 years ago. So, you know, they were very suspicious of him. And he was looking very promising. So they went to test his alibi. They found out that he was not in work on the 1st of April in 1988. And he also was not in work on the day that April's body was dumped, which was the 4th of April. When police searched his house with all this information that seemed to be matching, they found yellow lined paper, which was the same as what the notes were written on, or similar. And they also found the Polaroid camera that, you know, his son was going on about. The police genuinely believed that they had found April's killer. So they tested the DNA, and guess what? It didn't match. It wasn't him. After all that, after everything that seemingly matched, it wasn't even him, which is just crazy. So obviously he was taken off the suspect list. Over the years, the police really did try and find her killer. In 2005, they did a press conference to just keep it in the public eye, basically. I'm reminding people that the case was still unsolved. The FBI did a profile in 2009 of the killer, where they described the murderer as a male white man. At that time, would have been in his 40s, sort of maybe 50s. That he was living or working in Fort Wayne, and potentially was earning sort of a medium to low income. Then in June 2015, they did a phenotyping. It's like they take the DNA, and what that tells them, they make an image from it. And that is what they did. They went to a company, they did all that, and they got a sketch based from that, which came back to say that this man was of British or German descent, potentially with brown hair, green stroke hazel eyes, and that he had very fair skin. It's thought at the time that he was in his 30s, so they did another sketch to see what he would look like now, well, then, which was in his 50s, potentially. And once more, nothing came out of those sketches either. So years and years and years were going by. The police were trying so many different things to try and catch this killer, and obviously technology is getting better and better, so they were able to do the phenotyping, you know, they were able to do a lot more with it. They kept testing his DNA in the database, but again, if this person has never done anything wrong since, he's not going to be in there. So even with these sort of advances in technology, they didn't seem to be getting any closer. They were trying all of the things that they could, but just nothing ever seemed to work and to be able to find this monster. Well, that was until 2018. And obviously, I've said it in so many of my videos now, I find it super amazing that this genealogy ancestry, where people put their DNA voluntarily to try and find their ancestors, you know, police can use that, and it's solving a lot of cases at the moment, and this is also one of them, because they sent the suspect's DNA to a company, like a DNA genealogy company, and using the suspect's ancestors that had voluntarily uploaded their DNA to this system, they were able to find April's killer 30 years later. They actually used distant cousins to build the family tree backwards. They looked for the descendants, and they actually narrowed it down to 2 brothers. One of these brothers was looking more promising than the other. He was called John D. Miller. He was 59 years old and lived in a trailer, sort of a mobile home park, which wasn't far from where April was. It was not far from where the first note had been left in that barn. So they did surveillance on him. They followed him around. They, you know, did everything that they could. And then, going through his trash at one point, they managed to find 3 used condoms. And so they took those. They tested the DNA. And guess what? They were a match to the ones that were sent in the notes and to what they found at April's crime scene. John D. Miller was the man that all those years ago abducted, assaulted, and killed Poor little April Tinsley, 30 years prior. So the police went ahead and went over to John's trailer, and basically it was as if he kind of always knew that this day would come, I guess, because the police turned up. They said, "Do you know why we're here?" And he said, simply, literally didn't try and lie, didn't try and do anything. He just said, April Tinsley. So it was as if, I don't know, he was expecting that day to come one day. I mean, thank goodness, because this man was, what he did to April is just horrific, taking that poor child's life. John confessed that the day that he took April, he had an urge, and he was just driving around and he saw April. He didn't know her, but he saw that she was blonde and he liked blondes, and that was it. He took her. He waited for April to pass by him. You know, once he pulled over, he got out, told her to get in. This is when he took her back to his trailer where he sexually assaulted, and he spent 2 nights with her as well. So I don't even want to know what he did over those 2 nights, but he then strangled her to death and then dumped her body in that ditch. John was convicted to 80 years in prison. He got 50 years for murder and 30 years for child molestation, and that means that he will not be liable for release until he is 99 years old. So yeah, he's never getting out, thank God. I mean, it really bugs me that, I know I'm glad that he was finally caught, don't get me wrong, I am, but for 30 years he got away with it. He got to live his life when he never afforded that to April. This monster got to live free for 30 years. I mean, the rest of his days are going to be spent behind bars, and good, but it just makes me so sad. And I know, you know, technology, the police did everything they could. I'm not saying that they didn't. It just makes you sad that he got away with it for so long. And I believe that Janet probably never, I don't know, she probably thought the day would come eventually, but you know, after 30 years passing by and still not finding her daughter's killer, it's so devastating. It really broke up her family. She said that they never did recover. I mean, she's thankful that he finally got caught, and said that 80 years wasn't even enough for what he did. But April's father passed away, Michael, a broken man, she said, and it just completely tore the family apart. And it's just so devastating. But yeah, I'm so glad that he did get caught. And it seemed like, I don't know, he was taunting the police and everything, and they still, was he doing that to get caught? Who knows? Anyway, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. That's all I have today on the case of April Tinsley. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.